Just want to shout out our Action Network colleague, Sean Zerillo, for a second. He had another great year in baseball, finished the MLB regular season up more than 25 units. And with Action Pro, you get instant notifications every time Zerillo or any of our Action experts make a pick in the Action app. Just visit actionnetwork.com/pro and use the promo code October for 15% off an Action Pro subscription. That's 15% off at actionnetwork.com/pro with the promo code October. And be sure to hear Sean every week talking MLB playoffs on the Payoff Pitch podcast. Welcome to Buckets. This is Action Network's WNBA betting podcast. I'm your host, Marina. Excited to be joined by a couple special guests returning to the pod, Andrew O'Connor-Watts and Jay Money. And this is our Best Bets episode for Friday, October 4th. Round 2 of the playoffs rolls on. We got a pair of game 3s on ESPN2. And I'm going to start by asking you both for your best bets. Andrew, what do you got?
I got the Connecticut Sun -1 for the first half.
Jay?
I'll go with the Las Vegas Aces -2.5 in the first half.
Couple of first half bets. I mean, I gotta say, I like it because I'm a little nervous about the full game for both of these sides, but we're going to talk it out. So let's start with the earlier matchup on Friday. The Lynx visiting the Sun. Sun are favored by 2.5. We got a total around 151.5, 7:30 p.m. Eastern tip. So Minnesota comes back, takes care of business in game 2, which I think was mostly expected considering they suffered the upset in game 1. And they covered the spread of -4.5, winning the game by 7. So interestingly, this season series has really been back and forth. Minnesota now 2-3 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. Before game 2, all the 5 games prior were decided by 5 points or fewer, right? So I think that was what gave me a little bit of pause in game 2. Didn't really matter. I think what's notable, though, in this game, Napheesa Collier, only 9 points, cleaned up the glass, had 12 boards. And then, Alyssa Thomas continued to do her thing, 18 points, 7 assists, 10 rebounds, but not enough. So, Andrew, since this is where you have your best bet, why don't we start with that logic behind Sun first half?
Yeah, I mean, the Sun have been a great first half team all year. The reason I went with that angle, I've also been betting a lot of first halves this season. If you follow me in the app, probably 90% of my bets that I log in there are first half sides. And the Sun have been a really strong first half team, particularly at home. So they're 3-1 first half just across the board in the playoffs. But at home this season, during the regular season, they're 12-7 against the spread in the first half. And they're, part of that reason behind that is their defense really locks in at home for whatever reason, just, in front of that Mohegan Sun crowd, their defense just clamps up. They have a 86.6 defensive rating in the first half at home this season. Just for a little bit of context, the Lynx are second at home. They're 93.1 in the first half defensive rating. So we're talking about almost 7, a little more than 6 points of difference per 100 possession in that first half. So really just an absolute lockdown team in the first half. So the other reason is that, we saw the Lynx kind of punch back in game 2, right? Sun take the first game. And I think that I just think the Sun will make adjustments in that first half. I think Stephanie White, right? Coach of the year, 2023. I think she'll make some adjustments to maybe get Bree Jones involved more offensively. She was like kind of rough on the defensive side of things, but if she can if the Sun can kind of lean into the boards, right? Like take advantage on the boards, which is a weakness for that Lynx team. I think we'll see them come out hot in the first half. I'll take them -1. I stopped liking it around -2. It gets a little long, but I would say as long as it's -1, -1.5, Give me the Sun in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I can really fault this. The Connecticut Sun they're a spiteful team. They're a spiteful bunch. They're going to be upset. I coined the term "pissed AT" last postseason. I think that we get that again here in Game 3. But Jay, I'm curious your thoughts both on this and the game as a whole, because, like I said, with these two teams, I really feel like they're very evenly matched. They're two of the top defensive teams. And so it can be a challenge picking the full game.
Yeah, these teams are definitely really evenly matched. I feel like that the Lynx have somewhat been overachieving so far this season. I think that they're finally going to run out, in my opinion. Like, this series really reminds me of the Mavs versus the Thunder, where you have a regular season team like the Thunder. I think the Thunder are like the Lynx. Like, the Lynx are the Thunder here, where they exceeded expectations. I mean, they got a really high seed. You know what I mean? Obviously, the public loves them. They've made their bettors a lot of money this season, but it comes to a point where that, not gonna say the look, but their run like kind of comes out. I personally feel like the Sun are the more complete team here, in my opinion. And I actually think they win this series as well. I know a lot of people don't really agree with that, and they think that the Lynx will make it to the finals. But I think the Sun have been somewhat on a mission all season, and I think that they can. This is the one team that matches up really well with the Lynx. And it's kind of crazy that Brianna Jones is getting played off the floor, because I do feel like if you have that big man, that's where the Lynx struggles. They don't really have a true center, in my opinion, even though Alana Smith has been doing really well for them and going back and forth with Collier. But I feel like Brianna Jones should have had a bigger impact in this series. But I just think the Suns have a few too many dogs that can go up against them. And them adding Mabrey, like maybe if they didn't have Mabrey over there, then you could say, okay, the Lynx have the upper hand. But ever since they got Mabrey, it's kind of unfair. I mean, Dejanay Carrington, Mabrey, you got Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner can go off any game, whether you're playing Brianna Jones or Burden off the bench going small ball. I just feel like they have enough. And their coach can match as well with Minnesota's coach as well. So this screams Dallas versus the Mavs versus Thunder to me. I think the Sun take Game 3. I like Watts played there in the first half. I think they come out pissed as well, leaned on their defense. You even saw in that first quarter they came out with intensity, even off of the Game 1 win. So that's what you want to see if with the team that you think is the better team. And the Lynx barely. I mean, even though they got up by 14, 16 points and still. Right, but then you let the Sun go on a 7-0 run. So this team is hanging right there with them, and I think this is a big game for the Sun. If they want to win this series, it's an absolute must-win spot for the Sun, and I think they get it done for Watts in the first half, and I think they come away with the win as well.
Just to illustrate how close the series is, I just pulled up just the series odds. Right now, Sun -102, Lynx -116. That's on FanDuel, which I guess I'm not that surprised, but at the same time, the Lynx title odds are a little shorter than the Sun. So I think generally people just don't know what to do with this series. But I want to mention the point you brought up about Brianna Jones, and Andrew kind of touched on this with, like, defensively. I think she's just a step slow because Alana Smith and Nafisa Collier are quick for their size. And Bree Jones is more of like a traditional big. And so it's hurting them. But I have a couple of props I'm kind of interested here, if you guys don't mind me running them by you. So you mentioned Mabrey, Jay, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, her addition to this team has just raised the ceiling for the Sun. So I was tempted last game to bet her points over. At the time, it was at 17.5. I did not go that route. I was like, it's a touch high for me. She ended up with 15, even though she had her worst shooting performance of the playoffs so far. Now I'm seeing that down to 15.5. And, the prior, 3 playoff games that she's had, she's gone over this. And she's playing way more minutes since Ty Harris got hurt. Even though Ty Harris played the last game, she only played like 7 minutes. And Mabrey's minutes did not go down, really. And to Jay's point, I just think she's a dog. And I think if Connecticut is competitive in this game and maybe even winning this game, Mabrey is going to be their number 1 scoring threat. She just is. I looked at Alyssa Thomas's points prop as well, because she has upped her scoring in the playoffs, but because she can do so many other things and you never know if she's going to end up being more of a facilitator, I was like, eh. And I just know, I just know that Mabrey is not afraid to shoot the ball. She's not afraid to, talk some shit. Like, she's been her fingerprints have been all over this series so far. So, firstly, any reaction to Mabrey from either of you?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll let you go first.
All right, yeah. You mentioned, like, it feels like that Sun kind of dog pedigree has really rubbed off on Mabrey since she's been here. She's been getting in a little scuffles with, she had that thing with McBride where McBride kind of like checked her. And so I definitely think that we could see her coming out just, firing, especially at home. I mean, someone that's a shooter like Mabrey is going to do better at home, most likely, right? So in front of that home crowd, shooting always goes up. She's not really a role player, but she kind of has that role player skill set. She's a little bit, maybe a step above a role player, but I think it's a good look. I don't really know the difference. I'm not a big props guy, but I don't know, like, if threes versus points, but if you saw her points go down and she almost cleared that in a game where she wasn't shooting that well, I think this is a really good buy low spot at home against that, with that home crowd behind them.
Yeah, Maria, she only shot 4 for 14 and still had 15 points. So, and that's on the road in a game where the Lynx, where everything is supposed to go their way in theory, with them being down 0-1 in an absolute must-win game. So, in this pivotal game 3 at the house, Mabrey's going to be huge for them. I couldn't talk you off going to over 15.5. She's definitely probably one of the most important players on the team. Obviously, I mean, DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas are right up there, but like them bringing Mabrey, I remember when I saw it that happen, I was like, that's kind of unfair, them adding her there. It's like, it's not fair. It's not fair at all.
I was just reading, there was an article about Mabrey that came out, like, I think Thursday on ESPN, and apparently Alyssa Thomas was like kind of recruiting her for a little bit, and like, so this has kind of been in the making. One more for you real quick. So full disclosure, I did bet Bridget Carlton last game to go over her points prop, and she went just under. I got her at 10.5. She had 9 points, but I'm a little annoyed at the officials. I feel like the officials played her out the game. She had 3 fouls midway through the second quarter, so she sat like the last 6 minutes of the first. So now we see yet again her points prop go down to 9.5, but I actually found 10 plus points at like minus 120. So maybe I'm being pigheaded, but I feel like the logic was there. I'm going to go back to it just because she shoots a lot of threes. So she's going to get the attempts, whether she hits them is another thing, but I like, again, I think 10 points for most people is like, okay, you need a few buckets, maybe you get fouled a couple times, but when you shoot as many threes as Carlton does, like, you can get to that number a lot quicker. So any thoughts there, guys?
I mean, I think if what we think is going to happen and the Sun get up ahead, a good way to try to come back is shoot a lot of threes, and she's going to be one of the ones taking those threes. I also think if we're wrong and the Lynx are the ones that are kind of coming out firing and playing a lot better, it's folks like Bridget Carlton that are going to be the reason for that. Like, they're hitting their shots even though it's a road game, right? So I think there's a couple avenues where it makes sense for that to go over.
Yeah, and Jay, just to add to this, so she's gone over this 7 of her last 10 games, and when you look at her last 10 games on the road, she's gone over it 8 of 10. So, Carlton, Bridge, I need you.
Yeah, I hope she goes over for you. The Sun have basically been pretty adamant about making sure Collier doesn't beat them alone. So somebody's got to make some shots. My only problem is that she hasn't been getting a ton of shots up. You know what I mean? And the Sun do guard the perimeter really well, but there's obviously different pathways. I mean, if they're guarding the 3 really, really well, then pump fake and try to get into the paint and draw some fouls. So I'm rooting for you. I hope you get the 10 plus. I've never bet a WNBA prop, so I hope you cash. But yeah, I saw that she had like 7 points at first, and then the fact that she didn't get over that 10.5, that was pretty crazy there.
brutal. And to be fair, I'll say this, like, I think I saw the game script in game 2 as exactly what you're saying. They're going to let anyone but Fee beat them, which is exactly what happened. In fairness, for game 3, that might not be the case. I don't really know what to do with Nafisa because, theoretically, she should be scoring way more. And Cheryl Reeve talked about wanting to get her more shots, needing to get her more shots. They're her best player. She's their best player is what I'm trying to say. So
she had 14 shots. She just missed them.
I know, but compared to like in the previous series, she shot like, I don't know, 20 times. But I mean, it's different, obviously, much different opponent. But I say all this to say the game script could be a little bit different. And I think depending on what's going on with Fee is going to determine whether or not some of these role players go off. All right. Well, thank you very much for, entertaining me with that. Let's move on to our next matchup here. It's another good one. This is another one. I don't know. I don't 100% know what to expect, but Liberty visiting the Aces. Aces now are the favorites. I'm seeing both 2.5s and 3s out there. So depending on what you like. And then total 166, 166.5. And this one tips at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So game 2, after New York took care of business in game 1, they narrowly won in game 2, 88-84. The spread of -4 pushed unless you were like our guy Dano Mattia and grabbed Liberty -3.5, which he gave out here on this podcast. And he went 3-0 with his picks last podcast. So well done, Dano. But it definitely got real tight. And the season series is still, it's crazy for me to say this. Like, New York is 5-0 straight up against the Aces this season. 3-1-1 against the spread. Interestingly, both of these games so far in the playoffs have gone over the total. After the 5 previous head-to-head matchups, they've gone under. Just a little side note for you. And the player of the game here was definitely Sabrina Ionescu. 24 points, 11 in the fourth quarter, including a personal 7-0 run. So, Sabrina really, she's been their closer, the Liberty. And I guess my question is she going to be able to keep this up against, a very prideful Aces team? So, Jay, you like the Aces here in the first half. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, first I want to say it doesn't surprise me that the Liberty have won 5 straight matchups versus Aces. I mean, this team, the Aces have been on their minds all offseason. Obviously, they kept them from winning the championship last year, so doesn't surprise me at all that they're up 2-0 here. They've talked about unfinished business literally all season. This is the series right here that and you hope that this isn't like the championship for the Liberty and they forget that it's not over after this. But I definitely think they get past here. It would surprise me if they swept the Aces. I'm not going to lie to you. You can never underestimate the heart of a champion. You even saw in the last game as well, the Aces come out firing in that first quarter as well. I believe led the first quarter by 8 points. So, I mean, when you can do that on the road, I definitely expect them coming back to the house, especially after the comments that the coach made about them being superstars, celebrities, not really giving their all into the game and stuff like that. They're going to hear that. They're going to be like, okay, let's go out here and play. They're at the house where they play a lot better as well. And also the Liberty have played 5 straight games at the house as well. They haven't had to deal with the opposing home crowd for a while. They've been fat and happy at the house. Now they're going to Las Vegas, where obviously the arena is going to be packed. Everybody's going to be rooting for the Aces to come out here and get at least one win and try not to get swept. So I know that the Aces mindset here is we have to start off early. We can't get swept in this particular game. Let's show our coach that we can steal ball in this particular spot. But while I don't think that they have enough size for the Liberty, because, I mean, Jonquel Jones and Brianna Stewart down low, the Aces, they're just, I mean, they can't stop that. And then when you say Sabrina, I just want to say one thing, because obviously everybody's all hyped about Caitlin Clark. Let's not forget that Sabrina was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark. Like, come on now. I don't understand why people are disrespecting her. I think she's getting finals MVP this year. And just hey, y'all, hey, I'm here. I was here before Caitlin Clark. I was doing the same thing that she's been doing. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, but yeah, I think Sabrina gets finals MVP. For this game, I think the Aces start out early, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won this game, possibly in a blowout as well, and then maybe Liberty come back and get game 4. But I think the Aces, with that championship mentality, I think they can come out here, smack the Liberty up at least for one game. And like I say, Liberty, they've been fat and happy up there in New York, traveling cross country here. I think it finally catches up to them for at least one game here.
Regarding Sab, preach it. I've been saying, like, I actually said when Caitlin made her debut, I'm like, if you want to look at what Caitlin can be, look at what Sabrina's doing now. I would say, what's changed so much about Sabrina this year is her ability to attack the basket. And that's what's given her this onus to take over games, because now she can create more for herself and she doesn't have to rely as much and defer to her teammates. So, she's been locked in, and I've been at Barclays Center both games this series and in the post-game presser and everything. And she's just like, she seems like she's on a mission. Now, whether or not that equates to being able to perform on the road here, that's the big question. But Andrew, let's get your reaction here.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to play the Aces in this game, it would absolutely be in the first half. I think they have we know that spot, the down 0-2 coming home spot is kind of a tried and true one. But I do think that this Liberty team is just a lot better than this Aces team. I mean, the Aces are a lot thinner, a lot less deep than they have, and not to mention Kia Stokes leaving last game with a concussion leaves them even thinner. I think the Liberty, their kind of their strength is their depth now. So if I were to play, I do lean Liberty, but that would be more for the full game. I just think their defense, I mean, that was the thing that struck me so much about game 2 was their defense. And I mean, really all season, but it really popped against the Aces in game 2. They were just not letting them get anything. After that first quarter, it was like so tough for anyone to get a basket. I mean, Benijah Laney-Hamilton on the perimeter, just like locking everybody down, making it really tough for Asia down low. I think that their defense is kind of another level. And I think that, Jay, you bring up a good point about, Becky Hammon kind of lighting a fire under the Aces with that comment, like, oh, they're celebrities, it's hard to focus. I definitely think that could really light a fire under them. However, I think she's kind of speaking to an issue that isn't necessarily going to fix itself. Now, it definitely might in this game, but I do think that they're just not quite that team that they've been. Like Chelsea Gray has, missed first couple parts of the season with injury. She hasn't really looked quite back to that like elite level that we know she can play at. And I just wonder if that's, what that is. I mean, she's getting a little older, but who knows what the exact reasons are. But yeah, I just think that this Liberty team is kind of a step above this Aces team. And I didn't really realize it until that game 2, when we saw it. This is the biggest stage. This is it. And then they just kind of blew the doors off them. I mean, it was a closer game than game 1, but it really didn't feel that close until kind of the very end. And I could see, like I said, Vegas coming out fast in the beginning, but full game, if this gets to 4.5, I'm going to have to take the Liberty for the full game.
Ooh, I like it. All right. So I'm with you. On our playoff preview pod with myself and Jim Turvey, we talked about the Liberty are a better team this year. They just are. And I fell into the trap last NBA season, Jay, where I kept saying, give me the Nuggets over the Celtics, give me the Nuggets over the Celtics. Celtics were showing us that they were the best team all year, but I still had that narrative in my head of like, they can't get it done, or like, sometimes the reigning champs, like, it just scares you a little bit. And then of course you have the MVP again, like Asia Wilson, just like, Jokic. And it's like, what is really truly happening? What is really happening right in front of our eyes? And I think it's clear that the Liberty are the better team. But where I hesitate is the Aces, if they play their best game, they can win, and they are desperate, and they are, back against the wall. And so yet again, I'm staying away from the full game, totally get the first half. And really specifically A'ja Wilson, like, she has been relatively contained. She started to take over in game 2. She had 18 points in the second half, game 2. So it's like, to me, the only real way that they're going to win this game, the Aces, is like A'ja just has to say, F everybody and just put her head down and work. And she can do it. Like, she can absolutely do it. So that's kind of where I stand on the actual matchup. Becky Hammon's been saying throughout this postseason, Liberty got better. And the biggest problem with them is their length, kind of like what Jay was talking about, because Stewie can guard 1 through 5. Jonquel is able to allow the Liberty to not always double team A'ja, right? And then Leonie Phoebish, who, by the way, go Leo, she she was instrumental in the Liberty once again winning game 2 with her defense on Kelsey Plum, which led to the turnover. So any final thoughts from you, Jay, on any of that?
I just want to say Lainey Hamilton, I love her hustle. Like, I'm a defensive guy. I just absolutely love watching her play. It almost takes you back to old school basketball. Like, she's out there giving 100% effort, no matter what. They could be up 20. She's diving on the floor. I absolutely love it. And the last thing I'll say, I've kind of noted, and Maria, you remember me saying this, I've been on the Liberty basically all season. I just kind of feel like they're the Celtics this year, the WNBA. It just seems like they're pissed off. And that's all they've been talking about, unfinished business. I think they have the best roster, so now it's just about winning. What is in the finals? Is it a best of 7 or still best of 5?
Still best of 5.
Still best of 5. So they have 4 more wins to get there, 4 more away, and they'll be crowned. They'll be they'll be crowned the champions there. So let's see what happens. But I do think there's a really good chance for Sabrina to get MVP. This is her coming out party.
No, I'm with you. I thought about that very same thing. Wearing the crown like Lady Liberty. I think it'd be cool. I mean, obviously, look, New York hasn't had a basketball championship since 1973, so it would be kind of nice. And also, the only original franchise for the W and the Liberty that has not won. So obviously, it'd be cool. They gotta finish the job. Really, really excited to see what happens in game 3. Is it the best team that wins, or is it the team that has the better game? Because I think that can be 2 totally different things. But this was super fun. Andrew O'Connor Watts and Jay Money, thank you so much for stopping by Buckets WNBA.
Thanks, Maria.
Anytime.
All right, and we will be back next week, pending whether or not any of these series are pushed to game 5. We'll determine if we're back on Tuesday. But just remember, if it's a game day, we're going to have a pod. Follow the pod so you don't miss an episode. Once again, I'm Maria Marino. Thanks for watching and listening, and let's get buckets.